Today, we're going to go into the only meta ads targeting strategy you need for everything in meta ads in 2025. Hey there, and welcome to today's video on the only guide you need to understand targeting on Facebook and how to do it in 2025 and beyond. This strategy will go through everything from the campaign interest, talking about that, through to custom audiences, through to uploading files so you can do lead generation and then do various lookalikes and stuff as well. So let's get straight into it. Firstly, you need to be into your ads manager, and as you can see, I'm in my ads manager now. In regards to this, I've made other test campaigns in the past. Most of the time, you will spend your time in the ads manager, and you can go there under the campaigns. Go create, and we're going to go and we're just going to do sales. Most of the time it's sales. That's sort of why we're going to do it this way. We're going to go into making a template. By default, you have your advantage score, you have budget, audience, placements, right? Now, I don't change placements much. Omni-channel marketing on Facebook is only getting it bigger. We're mainly going to be focusing on the audience. The budget, I have other videos for as well. If you're running catalog ads and you're wanting to do that as a targeting, that'll be most if you are running an e-commerce business. A lot of you that are, let's say, running Shopify, you can integrate Shopify with Facebook, and then it pushes your SKUs automatically to Facebook. And then you can run Advantage Plus catalog campaigns. They work quite well when you have at least 10 SKUs. I've done that in the past with many clients and my own brands, and it's just a great thing. DPA ads, I have a link for the video up there if you want to go check out DPA ads. We're not going to get into the budget. You've got different bidding strategies, I should say, as well. ROAS, I've only started testing on ad accounts that are seasoned. You have to be eligible, right? So you have to be, I think, spending at least $1,000 a day for that to be relevant. Most of the time though, you want to go highest volume, right? And then bid cap is where you've, in previous videos I've said basically bid cap, cost cap, sort of the same thing. I've been doing marketing now for 8 years, so it's just the wording has changed. Most of the time though, you just want to focus on highest volume. You don't want to focus on cost per result. I've never really focused on that. You more do that if you're doing targeting in Facebook ads. You got more settings. You can do your scheduling. I've found that scheduling doesn't work that well. You have to be spending a considerable amount of money and really hone into that for that to be worth it. I usually find that what you want to do is you want to leave it to optimize over a 24-hour time frame. That's what 99% of ad accounts use. I've never personally seen one that does this. If you want to do A/B testing, you can do that. What would you like to test? Would you like to test the creative, the audience, the placement, custom? I haven't done it this way. I do my split testing a more manual way where I duplicate it and I manually make the change. You can do that, and this definitely works, and it'll have like a little vial or whatever it's called, like you're in a chemistry lab to represent the split test. But I just sort of do it manually, is sort of been my approach again. But you know, if you were to, it depends obviously on that, but always focus generally on your cost per purchase is generally what you want to do. Most of the time, see that cost per purchase, cost per lead, or cost per app install is generally what I focus on, because you focus on the end result. But we're going to turn that off. You got your audience segmenting, right? So audience segment can define your audience settings to receive reporting breakdowns between your new audience engaged. So this is when you have a seasoned pixel or seasoned ad account with some data. You have your engaged and existing audience. So engaged is people that have gone to your website, for example, and existing would be usually from your CRM, let's say like they beautify email, Klaviyo, OmniSend, any of those. You upload your list, and I find that's the best one because you want to add that in, and I'm going to show you some tips on that in a moment, because that can really sort of help with your segment reporting as well. Special ad categories is if you're running special ad categories, mainly if it's, you know, financial, employment, housing. Most of the time, people, you know, you won't be using that, right? So most of the time that won't ever be an issue. If we go into now the ad set, this is where you choose the type of conversion location. Again, depending on your business, 90% of the time, I don't do website and calls, I just do website. You want to go your maximum number of conversions. Value of conversions is something I don't do. I do number of conversions because I focus on the lower the cost per purchase generally, the higher the ROAS is sort of the approach I've found to be the most successful. I don't use any of these others, and you'll find that that's generally the consensus most people have. You have your data set, which is just your integrated pixel, whether you've set it up manually or via an integration, it should see it here. If it isn't set up, you need to go into your business settings and under your data sets, make sure that the data set has been given permission to the ad account, otherwise it won't show up here, because you might have multiple pixels, and so you want to make sure that the right pixel shows up here. You might be running multiple ad accounts for different businesses. You want to make sure you segment that, so make sure you get the permissions right and make sure you give it generally full permission, or unless if you're an agency and you want to lock it down, obviously you can do all of that as well. The conversion event you generally want to aim for, you got inactive and active. But again, you want to go for purchase generally. Let's say you're running e-commerce. I don't really run any of these others with e-commerce. There's add to wishlist. I've never really done that. But as you build out a brand more, add to wishlist is a trigger that I plan to be testing more, because I want to start targeting those people. I think that one's going to be a really good one. Add to wishlist, add to cart, add payment info, initiate checkout, purchase. I find add payment info is very unreliable. I find initiate checkout is a lot more reliable, but that's where you want to check in your pixel data set to make sure that you're getting the highest amount of conversion, so that then you can run these and get your pixel as much as possible. This is where you can run value rules. So this is all very new. I just have this in my previous one, so I've made one, so I will apply that here. Again, you can make multiple value rules and you can apply it automatically here if you want to create one. So let's say that you're running a jewelry business and you find that you get a mixture of men and women, but you find that women will be the ones that rebuy, repeat purchase buyers, as opposed to men. You can say to it, hey, I want this one as an example to prioritize generally the spending to men over women if I'm targeting both. So, you can control it. Ignore this, by the way, and the campaign score isn't that important. I don't stress too much on that. But this is a really important one as you narrow down your data. I don't recommend doing it immediately. I recommend getting some data and then using it long term. Then you've got more settings and you've got your attribution settings, right? Generally, what you want to do is 7-day click-through, 1 day, and 1 day, right? You don't want to have it as none. You want to leave those as default, but I wanted to show you that the click-through is really important, because I have in other videos that you can check up here, when you look at your reporting, then you can start to see the long-term conversion value. Usually you're probably seeing a 10 to 30% increase in your ROAS, reduction in cost of purchase, because attribution does take time. And with Facebook's new AI machine learning and very big focus on AI, this will become more and more important, the click-through, to then see that after 7 days after the click-through, have they converted, right? So it converts that attribution, because a lot of people might come from Facebook and then they go to Google. I have videos on Google Ads. You can go check it out in the channel as well, where you run like brand search campaigns, Performance Max, to get the sale there as well. But Google wasn't the first point of contact. So this is where this starts to really help, where it gives you that understanding of that point of contact. I don't put ad set spending limits. I do ad account spending limits. So under your billing and settings, you can go under your ad account and you can actually add a monthly one, right? I strongly recommend that to everyone in case your account gets compromised. It happens more often than you think. If you put a spending limit there, that is a very important little trick. Under your billings and settings, you can have a look at under there, as well as a general tip, I recommend having multiple cards, one card specifically for Facebook ads. It is very prone to being compromised. I've seen it many times. So I actually use a provider so that I can actually make virtual cards on the fly, and I put that same amount of limit, so that's outside of Facebook. So if someone is able to get full permission and remove that limit, then the card has that limit anyway, and I can just delete the card and it's no questions asked. So a little tip there, just from experience. When it comes to your start date, you always want to do your start date at the next business day. Midnight is when I start it, based on your ad account time zone. When you set up your ad account, you will see this, and you can't change it after the fact. So make sure you put it in your time zone. Make sure you put it in your currency. You can't change those two things unless you make a whole new ad account, and you lose all of that data and you can lose momentum. So I strongly recommend not doing that. Make sure you set it in yours. Even if whatever your country you're targeting, set it in the currency and time zone that you are in at that time. You can set an end date, but you don't really ever do that. You just turn them off. So I'm not going to go into that. And again, you've got your budget scheduling. So that's where The budget scheduling in this case is a Advantage Plus, where basically it's at the campaign level. It used to be called CBO. They've renamed it to Advantage Plus because of AI and really trying to focus on that. So here, this is where you do your advanced targeting. By default, it does the targeting for you, and that's why it's got your 100 score. It wants to do the work for you, which sounds all great and all, but as you've seen in other videos, I've sort of said it's really important that you have the control as well. You can suggest an audience, or I recommend go for further segmenting it. Basically, you can see that now you get the original controls that you used to get years ago. Facebook have just hidden it. As a little tip, what I generally find, your niche best, but make sure that you narrow down your targeting. If you're in e-commerce, it's 25 and up usually works best. 18 to 24, usually it's things like fast fashion and lower cost items, as a little tip. And once you get 45 and up, because it breaks into categories of 18, 24, 25, 34, 35, 44, 45, 54, 55, 65, 64 and 65 and up. That's what you'll see when you see your reporting. I generally find that I target 25 and up. I'm building a new brand, however, though, that will be actually to a younger demographic. So it's the first time I've really done it. I'll be going 15 to 34 as a starting point. Might even make it 44. And I plan to do reporting on that as I start to do the ads. Genders, this is where, again, you target your genders. Right, so I didn't know that. There you go. So if you have it under 18, you can't control the gender. Sadly, you can't control here, but where the spread is. But up here, like with the value rules, this is where in the value rules you can set the priority. So even whatever you set here, the value rules will supersede it to say, okay, men and women, but 70% of my budget should go to women by default. Then you got custom audiences, you got detailed targeting and languages. Custom audiences, I'll go into it in a moment. Custom audiences that you make for retargeting, and then you got lookalikes. Okay, lookalike is derived from a custom audience. Custom audience you make that is, let's say, targeting website visitors on your website for the last 180 days. You can go up to 180 days with Facebook. So that's generally what I do, is just 6 to 30 days though. And then you'll see when they're green, that means they're applicable. But you can see that all of these are too small because this is just a test ad account. But what you can do here is you can go, let's say I want to include all VC, and then I don't untick, usually I want a suggestion. You want to do it, and you can see it narrows it down because you do retargeting. But then you can also add exclusions, and it shows the exact same. So if you wanted to exclude this, right? So include only people that have been to this page, but exclude everyone with this page. You might want to do very specific marketing campaigns for that, or your internal media buyers might want to do that as well. Then you've also got lookalikes. As I said, I'll go into that, but lookalikes are derived from a custom audience. So the custom audience has to be a well-defined audience, otherwise the lookalike's not going to work. What Facebook then does is it gets that data and says, okay, what are people that meet that criteria? You choose your country as well, and that then determines the audience size. So the more defined and the more quality the custom audience, generally the more quality the lookalike is. So a VC lookalike view content is not going to generally be as good as a purchase lookalike, but you can't do a purchase lookalike until you have at least 100 purchases. Otherwise, it just won't have enough data to be able to then say, okay, well, here's 100 purchases. How can I find people that have got similar attributes that I can use? Okay, so that's a really important distinction to understand. Then you've got detailed targeting. This is where you basically start. If you're running a new ad account, unless you can share audiences between ad accounts and stuff as well. If you're running it for multiple businesses, you can do that. That's a way to shortcut using existing data, and I have done that before, and I can show you very easily how you can do that once we go into the custom audience manager. When you've got your detailed targeting, this is where you've got demographics, interests, and behaviors. It's important to understand that interests are the cheapest, demographics and behaviors are more expensive. Demographics and behaviors, Facebook has to work with third-party providers, where they basically get the data from various third-party providers, and then they turn it into targeting options. So you can target someone on their birthday, for example, close to their birthday, but that'll cost you more as an example, because the data is it's not just from Facebook, it's from other platforms. So generally what you want to do is I find that I generally target just interests, and you usually want to go broad interests. So if I'm gonna, as a little tip when it comes to this as well, what I do is I Google, or these days ChatGPT, top 10 XYZ. So top 10 magazines work well. Top 10 famous people in some space. So let's say top 10 models, top 10 fashion magazines, You sort of get my point. You want to think of magazines or famous people are usually the key starting points that I just sort of start with that are really good, or as well top 10 brands. Okay, those three usually have plenty of ideas. You know, you're going to get 30 audiences and you just go with the ones that you think are the most relevant and put it in. So if I put in Gymshark, there you go. And you can see show estimated size. You can see it's relatively small, but I think that's, oh, pardon me, because of, I missed this. I have it set to Australia because I'm from Australia. So this is where as well you can add multiple countries. You can include and exclude just as before. So if I wanted to exclude Australia, you can do that as well. It's the exact same thing, but you know, you can see inclusions and exclusions. Saved audiences is if you also have a saved audience, you can actually then go and save these audiences to reuse for various ones. You can drop a pin as well. That drop the pin. Doesn't seem to be working. There we go. And now you can see exact coordinates as well. So you can do that, but I know no one that really ever does that. You can also further narrow it down. You can include areas, only include cities, exclude cities. So for instance, so that, you know, regional towns, it only focuses on that, because a lot of cities, the GDP, the amount of expendable cash people have is higher than a lot of rural towns at times. So you'll find like, that's just sort of the way it is. For instance, here in Australia, you'll find Melbourne and Sydney are the main buyers. And then you'll find a lot of other cities, but it's sort of like those two. So you sometimes might want to do that. Generally though, I haven't really found that. And then you can narrow it down further as well by cities, by size. Pardon me, population size from that to, let's say, whatever. But I've never really done that. I leave it pretty broad when it comes to that. I look at the data long term and then I sort of make my decision. So include all areas, and then you can even narrow it down by radius as well. But I find that I don't really do that. As I said, I just target country, and then once I have the data and I see what's working, I might narrow it down and cut out some of those cities as well. And what I usually do is then I'll, because you'll see that it'll look more like by state and stuff, that you just narrow it down manually in a new test campaign. But that's sort of how you can do targeting. You can do that a number of different ways, of course, as well, whatever sort of works best for you. Like what I was saying with the custom audience, detailed targeting, you can see Gymshark here. You can see how it's a very large audience in the United States, but we want a larger audience. So let's say that we choose one of the most famous people, Kim Kardashian. Okay, you can see her overall audience was 43 million, but in America it's 9 to 10, 11. So that's a huge audience, and that shows the lady's huge influence. And it's broad. That's what you want for your cold targeting. For when it's retargeting, you want it narrow. For when you're doing your cold campaigns for new prospects, then you go broad. And again, you can define further, and they can also match fashion, right? This can trim a little bit off the edges. So you can see that trimmed, actually I think it sort of increased it overall. But anyway, so you get my point that, so let's use an example to sort of show. So women that are into Kim Kardashian and into that, you can see that massively narrowed down the audience, right? But you can see in theory that works well, but with Facebook nowadays, you actually let it mostly do the targeting. So you just want to give it a broad outline for cold, and then that's perfect, okay? Don't switch to recommended setup, that's perfectly fine. Then you got your placements. So your placements, you generally want to leave as all devices. Android and iPhone both work quite well. Again, in the beginning, leave it open. You've got platforms, you definitely want to leave that open. I think Threads is definitely going to be very big long term, as they're pushing hard for that. And then you can look at your individual placement controls, right? You can look at all of these, but what will happen every time is it'll mainly go to the feeds and then stories and reels, right? Stories and reels, that's why they have it as a separate category. Then it'll be, it's usually these two, and then it's a mixture of these, right? Especially for retargeting, you want to leave these open. You might want to look at narrowing this down for cold prospect marketing, but for retargeting, you definitely want to leave it open for retargeting. Cold prospecting, you might want to look at it and narrow it down. That being said, you usually find it's only a small percentage that would help, but it can help. Then you've got skippable ads. exclude skippable ads in the ad set only for in-stream videos. I've never really done this. I find that's very, very minor, but you can do that. And then you can got your brand safety, where you can actually, in your advertiser settings, you can control this as well, where you've got exclusions. So for instance, you can't control live videos, for example, right? And some live videos might have some sensitive content you don't want to be a part of. So I've at times done that, where I want to exclude it from that. It doesn't make any difference to your audience size, but it just, the category of live videos, your ad might not be shown or shouldn't be shown if you enable this filter. And then you've got your inventory. I've never done this. I leave it as expanded inventory. You'll massively reduce your reach while it can work, but it's, for sensitive content, right? So you always want to go expanded. It's usually the best, and that's what 99% of people do anyway. So that's pretty much it for your targeting there. In terms of within your ad set, this is where, this is where you just do your optimization of your ad. The main targeting thing, obviously, that I really wanted to talk about was not the creative itself, but the URL. You usually want to send people to the URL for cold and remarketing, to a very specific URL, not just your homepage, but straight to the product page. Naturally helps boost conversion rates. Optimized website destination will direct people to the most relevant page on your website. I've only started using this, but you can also do URL parameters. So this is, if you've heard of what's called UTM tracking, basically allows you to have even more granular tracking that you can use in tools like Google Analytics and stuff as well. But this is more for more people that are doing scaling, that are really wanting to drill down very deeply on it. So you can then add these various variables as well that automatically append to the URL that is added. So you'll find if an ad, most users won't see it, right? Because they're on their phone, on their browser, you don't see the URL, but for them to track, you usually just have a full URL, and then it has like a campaign name, ad set name, ad name. So if there's a conversion or whatever the data ends up presenting, it knows where to send it back to, so that then you, as the marketer, can then report on that and look at that reporting. As a little tip, display link, you just put as the same thing, depending on your business. I've only started using WhatsApp. WhatsApp is actually quite important. People are finding that they want to use that more and more, and it sort of aligns with what Facebook's doing, where people can actually talk within the ad as a part of their new Andromeda AI that will allow people to buy through Facebook. And so having WhatsApp's really important. I find call doesn't work well. WhatsApp can work well. I find that instant form, never really done it. I've done instant experience ads. That's ones where see the different ads, but again, I won't get too much into the creative side. So this is where you can display an event. This is like if you're running like a special event, and then you got your languages. You can add different languages, like it back at that ad set level. You can add different languages to automatically translate to people. But again, obviously it depends where you target. Most of us targeting, native English speaking countries, so you won't have this problem, but you do have that, and that's sort of a part of targeting that can help with conversion rates. And that's why Facebook's rolling out more AI to automatically dub and translate stuff as well, to further help people scale outside, because to get more scalability there. And then again, you got sort of more URL parameters. Don't really need to use any of these as well. So let's go now into the other part, which is into the audiences. Okay, so in the audiences here, you've got filters, active ad, inactive ads, recently used, shared, type, whether it's a custom saved audience, so you can do all that. Is it ready? Is it not ready? What source is it from? So you can drill that down and then do like a manual filter for the name as well. I generally don't do this. I just type up here as well, and you can see that you can share. Like I've done some examples of sharing here as well. When it comes to the custom audience itself, this is where you can do your targeting. The main ones you use in e-commerce would be Instagram account, video, website, customer list. Okay, catalog, I've never really done that, if I'm honest. And shopping, I've never really done either. But like, for example, with website, usually pixel, website, 30 days. And what you want to do, pardon me, is, let's say, view content, and so you can go website visitors, but as I said, like I usually go by URL parameter, and you go content ID, and the content ID is usually some random number. If you're on Shopify or most of the platforms, usually it's that final / and then that string after it. It's just more reliable. You give it an audience name. I put custom audience, test one, 30 days BC. So that way you're easily able to, and I copy that there, and you can have, just some more characters if you want. You can add multiple of these, so of multiple products as well. That's why I use this. It's just more reliable, but generally I do one custom audience for one product. Create audience. And this is where it prompts you to make a lookalike, create an ad, create another custom audience if you want. You can see then the usage, you can see the history of it. You don't look at this all that much. And this is where, as I said, though, you can share it. So you can actually share these to, other ones that I've made in the past. So you can share it between different ad accounts as well. And that can sort of help you as well if you've got a similar business in another area and want to do some targeting there. Or at times you want to use it as a backup method. That's what I've sort of done at times as well. You can see as well, if we go back here we'll show video and custom list are the main other ones. So let's say someone that's seen a video for the last, that, and then I want to choose this. So you'll see all your videos here. So, we choose that one. And then when you put, again, CA, 3 seconds, and I'll call it video name X. And again, sort of do that. Why won't it let me? I did select a video. Okay, there we go. Custom audience, create the custom audience. And again, you see the same thing. So you can see it's much the same. The other part that I wanted to show was the customer list. So this is where you can download a file template. You can import from MailChimp if you're using MailChimp. A lot of e-commerce people are not using MailChimp and using other ESPs. And this is where as well that you look at your main identifiers, which is things like their name, email, address, and so forth. And then you've got your customer value. The customer value is an important one because it can help really define that. And then you've got additional values of city, country. And you can get all of this from your CRM, most of them, usually the country, city, postcode, all of that. The more that you can feed it, the better. So I usually try and add in their name, email, address, first name, last name, email, address, lifetime value, as well as their actual personal address. And you don't really use data processor. I've never used that, so you don't need to. So let's go next. I've just made a sample one just using ChatGPT. You can download this sample one, or you choose a file from your device. I'm just going to choose this one that I've just made for the sake of this. You go next. Does your file include a column? Yes, it does. And then we check lifetime value, right? That really helps to make sure as much as possible that you're getting the right one. And as I said, you can use tools like ChatGPT and that where you export it and say, I want to customize this CSV to only have these columns, and it will just automatically do it for you. It's pretty cool, honestly. So, and then you want to go, what audience label is it? It's qualified leads, because they are qualified leads. And generally when you get these qualified leads, you want to make sure that they're ideally purchases, because then they're your leads that are from purchases. They're usually the best ones, because you'll get plenty of leads from your newsletter and that, and they won't convert. You want to get people that have converted, so you get those leads. And then you name it custom audience, and I call it leads qualified from CRM. Oops, CRM. All right, by ticking, you have to accept that. Next, and you can see that it's mapped and action needed. And that's where sometimes you need to do it. Surname, and you can see now, a little bit of manual work, but it's like 2 seconds. Import and create, and then it imports it, right? And then from there as well, you can use that for custom audiences, but then as well as this, you can then, as I said, update it. So you can edit a custom audience, you can make changes on the fly, but let's say I wanted to now make a lookalike. So now I choose an audience from this, that one, let's say, and it'll come up with your purchases. If you have the data and everything, it'll actually help you a lot with that as well. And then you choose your target country. You'll know what that is. I'm just going to put United States. And this is here where you can choose your audience size. And this is a targeting strategy. You can see in America, it's 2.7 million people for a custom audience that's from this lookalike in this country. So if I was to change it add Australia, you can add multiple countries and narrow it down to ad set level. So that way it saves you time and you can just narrow it down. It sort of depends your preference. What I generally do if I'm targeting multiple countries is I'll add in all the countries and then I'll narrow it down at the ad set level, because the difference is then you're not making like having to spend hours in here just constantly being like all these lookalikes, and it really can get overwhelming, right? So the more you can do that, and then you can add up to 6. I usually do 5. I don't know why they chose 6. It's a weird one. And you'll see here 1 US is 0 to 1. And then if I were to change this dial, so for the sake of this example, what I could do is 0 to 10 and see it's 27 million people. Then I go there, it's 11 million. So I actually have an advanced video on that. You can go watch that here, where it's all about lookalikes, and I have more videos on that where it's about using lookalikes. Where what I do is I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whatever one's working, I put that one in the middle. So for example, if I'm finding that 1%'s working, I'll then go 0 to 2. They put it as 2%. I don't know why it's like that, but it's historically it's been 0 to 2. That's just a change in naming convention. And then if that's working, I'll do 0 to 3. I'll just try a number of combinations where it sort of centers around the one that's been working and keeps incrementally expanding it. But that's a bit of an advanced strategy. We won't get too much into that. I won't be able to make the lookalike because I don't have the data. It's just going to fail. But once you make the lookalikes, it'll show up here. It usually takes 1 to 2 hours. And then you can go back into your ads manager in your campaigns, and you will see. So if we go back in here, we will see the custom audience now as an option, because it's a test ad account, ignore that. So custom audience, now it should show up. There we go. So we got qualified leads, fantastic, right? And now it's again going back to narrow because it's qualified leads. Now with the qualified leads, I strongly recommend you at least have 500 really for good amount of data is what I generally find. And obviously for a lot of established brands, that shouldn't really be a problem. But that's pretty much all the targeting that you need to know, whether it's making a custom audience or lookalike, whether it is interests or demographics, whatever that looks like, it's all much the same there. I have more videos coming up on Events Manager. I have more on data sets, more on catalogs, more around Facebook that'll be coming up. So if you did enjoy today's video, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time. Have a lovely day. Take care and goodbye.